After graduation in December, Isadora plans to pursue an MA in education while continuing an individual writing career on the side. Please welcome Isadora Herold.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. My fellow authors, poets, linguists, and human beings, please clear your mind of everything you once knew about language. I am writing to instill in you the notion that there is a way to further understand the world around us after all words and concepts have been memorized. I have a vision of schools where children are encouraged from the first day to care for others and themselves through close conversation, to understand by experience and reflection, not by classification and repetition. I believe that there needs to be different language used in schools rather than words like pass and fail, and you're reading at a 5th grade reading level when you're in 10th grade. Everyone is different. Children need to learn language in a way that inspires writing and expression. They should be exposed to the myriad works of literature that are there to help them explore the inner workings of their own minds. Yes, it is important to learn words and what they mean in our society today, but we do not all need to understand things the same way. The origin of Zen is told through the story known as the Flower Sermon, and it depicts one student learning by recognition and appreciation rather than by being told what is what. The story is this. The Buddha sits in front of a room of disciples, all eagerly awaiting his instruction. But vocal instruction does not come. The Buddha simply holds up a blooming lotus flower. A disciple named Mahakashyapa smiles at the sight of the flower. The Buddha nods, acknowledging Mahakashyapa's understanding. This story exemplifies how we can acquire a deeper appreciation of things once we let go of the rigid constructs of language. Reality is all around us every day, but our reality is blocked by a screen of delusion. By simply looking and living and absorbing our surroundings, we are looking past the screen of vanity, greed, ignorance, and in some cases, language. We are experiencing and learning what it means to exist. Part of existing is recognizing the flaws in our human systems, particularly that of language. I am wrestling with the idea that our dependence on language may be causing more problems than we realize. My main concern has been how negative language is being used to motivate children in the early stages of education. Children strive, mentally and emotionally exhausting themselves, to get 100s on tests because if they don't, they will fail. And if they fail, they won't get into college. And if they don't get into college, how can they be a contributing member of society? As a child, I was afraid to go to school. Now in college, I've had the opportunity to study subjects like Buddhism and depth psychology, both fields deeply rooted in finding a path to understanding. However, this path can only start once we have realized that there is a delusion keeping us from true reality, and that must be overcome. I see this delusion present in the language used to teach children in grade school. In Western education, our relationship to knowledge has become rigid. Instead of learning subjects and having conversations about them so that children have a chance to be engaged and develop a passion for knowledge, children are forced to memorize definitions and formulas. They are overwhelmed with the language of teachers only teaching to train students how to properly shade in bubbles on standardized tests. Is that how intelligence should be measured? Early education today is impersonal and uninspiring. Kids are introduced to this world through chemistry and trigonometry and the history of the white man, but what about stressing the importance of writing and reading? What if we introduce children to themselves through subjects like depth psychology? What about actually teaching them to interact peacefully with others? Imagine if students in early education were encouraged to dream and to share their dreams with others. Who decided that math and science take precedence over learning how to understand ourselves and how to be happy in this world? I'm not saying that these subjects don't have a place, but I do believe that allowing children to explore their own minds first and then choose an academic path rather than trying to make them all the same will produce a successful generation in the way we need it most today. Aldous Huxley, a heavily influential English author leading up to the 1960s, wrote his very last novel, Island, about a utopian society. In this society, children are taught mindfulness and meditation at a young age. Children are, quote, for actualization, for turning into full-blown human beings, end quote. Children are exposed to sex as a natural occurrence rather than being told to just say no, and hallucinogens are used safely as what they are, a useful tool to see beyond the veil of everyday consciousness. The very last chapter of Island depicts the main character experiencing his first hallucinogenic trip on moksha medicine. Huxley writes of this character's perception while on the drug, quote, "Words could only caricature and diminish, never convey. It was not only bliss, it was also understanding. Understanding of everything, but without knowledge of anything." And later on, "Speaking was difficult, not because there was any physical impediment. It was just that speech seemed so fatuous, so totally pointless." I find myself in complete agreement with the way the society runs. Language is beautiful and useful, but in intense moments of passion, such as making love or tripping on psychedelics, language does not have to be at the forefront of our minds. True, the inclusion of hallucinogens in education may be too alarming for Western schools to take on anytime soon, but the island of Pala had faith in their children. They are not being controlled and treated as lesser beings. They are being raised and taught as equals. I believe it is my role as a writer to persuade my readers and listeners to explore alternate forms of reaching understanding about the world and the importance of raising our children with a new awareness. It is not the most important thing to memorize all of language as a straight set of rules, but rather use language as guidance to lead us through the delusion that is our perception of reality. Someday we will all be gone, and our children will be the ones living in this world. Now is the time to use language as a tool to inspire the future generations. I believe that if we treat children with more respect and give their imaginations an outlet to flourish, they will bring a new sense of peace and hope to life on this earth.
Thank you so much, Isadora. Your justice. Please welcome Kristen Jennings.
Reality is subjective. Anyone who tells you otherwise is